Do you need to be good looking in order to attract girls? Well, we're going to answer this question, and I am going to give you a straight answer, but what I'm also going to do is explain it by referring to my own personal experience. We're going to start with a quick story, and then we're going to answer the question more directly, in more depth, and more head on. So let's get into it. When I was a very young kid, I can remember seeing and subsequently falling in love with this beautiful, amazingly feminine woman who I thought was just perfect. And me being a young, naive kid, not knowing anything about how dating or attraction works, thought, wow, she is so pretty. If she looks like this, man, what must her boyfriend look like, in order to be with her? And interestingly, a few minutes later, I actually saw her boyfriend. He came out of the toilet and there he was. And looks-wise, he was maybe like a 6. He had a bit of scruff. His hair wasn't super tidy. He did smell pretty good. But he really wasn't the most handsome dude in town. And I can remember in that moment really trying to understand, how is it that this dude is with this girl? Especially because at the time, my 6-year-old self was thinking, surely this woman is going to be my next girlfriend. So to find out that this dude was who I was up against, I was like, sure, I'll take my chances. But what I couldn't get my head around was how a woman of this beauty had chosen to be with a significantly less attractive man. Thankfully, we can fast forward to the present and actually begin to explain what was going on here. And what's good is, as we explain this one situation, we can actually more broadly answer the question here of this entire video. So this guy, he was not very pretty, barely even handsome, but what he did have were these very strong masculine traits. For example, he had a very strong personality. He knew who he was, and he was very sure of himself. He had excellent charm and great humor, and seemed not to care all that much. He would joke around and be playful, but he also didn't try too hard. What was this, and how was this even happening when there was such stark physical differences between this guy and this girl? Well, being a young kid, I tried to explain it to myself, and I remember thinking to myself, maybe she hasn't realized yet, that he's not very good looking. That was my logic at the time, and my best attempt to explain the situation. Little did I know, though, that to her, his looks weren't all that important. Why? Well, it's not because women don't like good looks. They do. Good looks are great and serve very well as a good opener. However, the deeper truth and the answer to the question of this video is that women will allow room for your character, charisma, and masculine energy, along with other high-quality masculine traits, to fill in as the substance of your value as a man. Good looks will always help. They will always increase your chances, but do you need them to have women find you attractive? The answer is no. Why? Because the value that you offer as a man extends beyond your physical appearance and into other areas of life which support women in their survival and their experience. For example, a man who can provide, who can protect, who can charm and stimulate the emotions of a woman will be infinitely more attractive than a man who just has good looks. A man with great levels of authenticity, character, personality, and passion is infinitely more attractive than a man who just has good looks. A man who makes strong eye contact, who has strong values, and who is socially adept, fluid, and flexible, speaking to all the people around him, showing that he is socially competent, displaying his social proof that he can attract other women, will be infinitely more appealing than the man who just stands there being good looking. One of the reasons this topic of going beyond your looks to offer value resonates with me so deeply is because when I was a little younger, I would say I have been this guy. I would say that I was a kid with fairly good looks, but without immense inner value. I mean, what teenager does? But to tell you the truth, and you won't hear this from many other people, as you start to get older, as a good-looking dude, it can be a terribly confusing existence. Why? Because your whole life, people around you have rewarded you and complimented you on your good looks. You start to think that they actually have some sort of value to them. And yet, as a man, this is the biggest distraction possible, because ultimately, your value is not sourced from your good looks. It's sourced from your high value traits and resources that you cultivate and grow as you develop into a wise, powerful, and abundant man. The problem with being pretty or good looking is you are rewarded for something which you ultimately need to grow beyond. And for me, I could feel this. It sparked within me a fundamental feeling of dissatisfaction that said, these looks are nice, but where's the real value? And what I realized is that I, and what each man needs, is not to be a pretty boy, but is to develop substance and character. You need to know who the hell you are in life, and you need to be able to take it on as your mission to accept whoever that person is. If you're learning more about yourself and you're finding out that you think you're a little bit weird, you're on the right sort of lines. You know why? Because it's digging deep that you go beyond your ego. And it's not like how it was before. You don't lie to yourself about who you really are. You own whatever comes up when you look. You begin to accept yourself so deeply that eventually you are able to exude this remarkably deep and strong self-acceptance because you're finally not resisting who you really are. This is what's called being in integrity with your authentic self, which, by the way, most people are terrified to do, which is also a fast track, by the way, to getting better with girls. Finding that authentic self and then being it. The truth, and what I'm sharing here about raising your value as a man, is made really difficult for guys to understand because this is not taught or communicated much in our society. And in the society which we live, it actually conditions men, with social media and television, for example, to promote the idea that being good looking as a man is somehow extremely important when it's not. What is extremely important is looking sharp, being well groomed, smelling fresh, and being presentable. You know, the obvious stuff. But what is false and what should not be believed is that the value of looks in the dating world especially somehow carries over equally to men. This is just not the case. In fact, it can't be the case because human nature cares first and foremost about survival. And those men who survived 1,000 years ago, they didn't do it looking pretty. They did it being strong, successful, and connected to their masculinity. So don't think for a second that we aren't all still run by our deeply primitive, unconscious minds and primitive instincts. All of this attraction is happening without us even realizing. It's hardwired into us. And so to think that having a pretty face as a man has a lot to do with it is deeply misunderstanding what attraction is and how deep it goes, and how inextricably linked it is with our literal survival. Yes, good looks are always going to help. As mentioned earlier, there's nothing wrong with good looks, and they're great. They're actually really attractive, of course. But what is not cool is this huge misunderstanding and this ignorance, which so many guys have, about the value of looks could somehow bear great significance or are as important as they are made out to be in mainstream culture. This video is designed to untangle us from this delusion and from this ignorance that we've all been programmed with. And what we're slowly doing is we're slowly making our way out of this ignorance. So what does this all mean? What is the message of all of this? Well, if you are wise, you would have picked up that this is actually the best news possible. It's actually an incredibly positive, liberating, and beautiful thing to know that you have the rest of your life to develop yourself as a man. It should feel very exciting to know that you are able to go beyond however you look physically and become extremely attractive to women in your lifetime if you can execute on this understanding that you need to build value as a man. And you're going to do this by becoming better, stronger, deeper, wiser, more abundant, and more resourceful. And this is going to open your eyes to the fact that you can accomplish so much more than you think you can, whether it's with dating and attraction or whether it's with you and your masculine growth. You are going to massively change things in these next few years, and it's going to be one hell of a ride. If not clear, your first point of action here should be to start developing yourself more, to start developing your character, your masculine energy, and your more high-value masculine traits. For example, you can just start with living a better lifestyle through working out, reading books, Or you can become more interesting as a person, become more fun to be around, learn who you are, learn your uniqueness and your authentic feelings toward things. Developing yourself as a man means becoming a person of your own, who doesn't apologize for being the way he is, because he accepts the way he is. He is always striving to be better, and he's always looking deeply inward to find his wisdom. Secondly, you should start to distance yourself from all the crap, someone's at the door. All the crap, all the social conditioning and the mainstream media that is brainwashing you to think that you need to look like a Chad or a bodybuilder or a male model to be attractive. This is complete nonsense. So just begin to detox your life of all of this crap. Because if we don't do this, like a sponge, we subconsciously absorb it. So eliminate the crap and start thinking and learning and using your own direct experience and your own observation of life to draw conclusions. I also want to mention that no matter what is said here, you will always want to be more attractive. You will always feel good being more attractive. This video is not to say that you shouldn't become better looking. In fact, I would say I'm probably in favor of looks maxing, upgrading your appearance, and also building a strong physique. In the past, I've talked about how being muscular isn't that important to be attractive, but do appreciate that the reason of how I got to realize that was through many years of working out and building the ideal physique, only to discover that yes, it's useful, but it's not as important as it's made out to be in the process of attracting a woman, namely because it doesn't do all that much for her. But foolish people, what they love to do is misinterpret this message and say, so you're saying you don't need to work out and you don't need to upgrade your appearance? No, not at all. This is ignorance and this is a lazy way of thinking. You need to have the wisdom to not think like this and to not indulge in people who do think like this. We're on this path to be wise, to grow, and not to be fools or trolls. So be careful with who you surround yourself with. And also be careful about the kind of ideas that you let into your own consciousness. You want to be free of toxicity and always developing yourself. That is the way to go. Finally, I want to mention one last observation, which is good looks do make life easier to navigate. For example, in the dating world, you will have a slightly easier time and you will get checked out more often. You will probably find the process slightly easier because women will be more receptive to you. In fact, good looks in general seem to make people treat you slightly more nicely. Sometimes literally just because you look nice. And this is something that you should absolutely never indulge in because these are looks, they're appearances. And appearances are just the surface level of reality. Truth is hidden much deeper and within. So I advise you to honor your best self by staying true to what you know is really valuable. And that is primarily things that come from within. Whether this is good work ethic, self-discipline, or strong character, you've got to treasure these kind of things. And you know, good looks are always going to be useful, but at the end of the day, they are not the be-all and end-all. So, I hope you found this useful. If you would like more videos like this, then please do subscribe.